We can do that.
Okay. For these executive sessions.
Yes.
Okay. Mr.
All
Rager and team, who's
right.
presenting?
I am presenting. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Good evening. Brian Rager, Public Works Director. I have a couple of guests with me tonight that I'll introduce here in a minute. We're back tonight to report back to you what we found by taking another look at
Yeah.
Kept driving through, talking to a couple people, kept going.
Well, thank you for protecting our downtown. I appreciate it.
Well, you know.
House has joined. And Mr. Nolip, you said we're free to go. I will call this City Council and Local Contract Review Board meeting to order. City Recorder Krager, please call roll.
Use Councilor Calderon.
Here.
Councilor Goodhouse.
Here.
Councilor Newton.
Here.
Council President Lube.
Here.
Councilor Shaw.
Here.
Mayor Snyder.
I am here. All right, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Nolip, please put the flag up on the screen, and then I'd ask everyone to mute themselves and participate. All right, thank you. We'll move on to non-agenda items. Do we have any non-agenda items from staff or council?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I am hearing none. We'll move on to public comment. Written public comment was due by 4:30 p.m. today, and we received 4 pieces of public comment by that time. I believe they were all related to item number 4 on the agenda, so we will consider those at that time. And then I think we also received a 5th one after the deadline that came from Mr. Fairley and was also related to item number 4. So we will consider those as written public testimony at that time. We'll move on to phone-in public comment. You may make phone-in comments by calling 503-966-4101. Mr. Nolip, do we have any callers in the queue?
We do have a caller in the queue. Are you ready for me to pass them through?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, this is Ryan Brugero, TCAC Chair. I'm here to speak on item 4 if you'd prefer that I wait until that time.
Ryan, I would prefer that. Are you okay with that? I'm sorry to do that to you.
No, it's absolutely fine. That's what I planned on.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Nolip, are there any other callers in the queue?
There are no other callers in the queue.
All right, we'll move on to follow up to previous public comment. City Manager Reimer, any follow up to previous public comment?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, councilors, we did follow up with the callers from last week, and in fact, one of our teammates is working to help navigate, help her navigate the process that she needs to go through. And then just a note for the mayor and council as well is that tomorrow morning, a group of teammates are going to be coming together to discuss both immediate needs as well as the long-term needs as we work to support our entire community. So that includes our update from last week's public comment.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to Tigard High School Student Envoy. Caroline, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. So since our last meeting, we had our January jog, which is like a virtual jogathon, and it was basically a challenge to get students to run or walk 21 miles for the senior class of 2021. Our sophomore class held a Bob Ross painting night. So basically people went on a Zoom call and followed a Bob Ross painting tutorial, and that went really well. We did our first cooking on call, which is basically like a tutorial on how to bake. We picked cookies for this one, and students just joined the Zoom call and got to bake together. And then we did a t-shirt contest. So each grade level submitted a t-shirt design, and we had students vote on which one they like best. And we have each of our 4 winners for each grade level. And so we're in the process of making those shirts and we're going to be selling them. And then currently, so yesterday was the first day of our second semester, which means we're officially halfway through the school year, which is bittersweet for all of us. We're having a trick shot competition for our Spirit Sports Committee, and this is open to anyone in the Tigard community. It just has to be submitted through a Tigard High School student's email. So if anyone in this call wants to submit a trick shot, they are more than welcome to do so before February 15th. And the winners get some like Tigard Spirit gear, and there's more information on our high school Instagram if anyone wants more details on that. We made an Instagram account for each grade level so that they can all stay up to date with what's going on. And then kind of like branching off of that, our Tigard staff has been working really hard to put together senior like swag bags for the class of 2021. So every month there will be like a different little goodie bag for seniors to pick up in honor of our senior year, which is almost over. So that's everything.
Thank you very much. Great update. And I'm really happy to hear and see that all of you are figuring out how to thrive even in the time of COVID with some creative things. The trick shot thing I think is awesome, because that's actually kind of leveraging things people already do that via that means anyway, and then turning it into a competition. So love that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to an update from the Tigard Area Chamber of Commerce. Jessica Love, are you on the line?
I am. Good evening. Jessica Love, Tigard Chamber of Commerce Community Membership Engagement. Our Leadership Tigard class met today and they learned about our city's government. Thank you, Mayor Snyder and Council President Heidi Lube for coming in and presenting. Also, Toby LaFrance for coming in and presenting to the class as well. They got to tour the Dairy Dell Creek Enhancement Project site, and then they got to hear from some of our local representatives. So it was a good day for them. We have our State of Business March 4th to Recovery event coming up on March 4th at 8 a.m. It's going to be in place of Good Morning Tigard. And what we're going to be doing is looking at what did 2020 do to different business sectors and how businesses have been impacted. And then also take a look at what growth and recovery opportunities are available going into 2021, and how technology and innovation and also consumer behavior will impact businesses as we go through the recovery process of COVID. Our 2021 printed Tigard Community and Business Guide is currently in the design process and will be going into print mid-March. If any businesses are interested in getting listed, they have until February 12th to join the chamber to be listed in that. That gets 8,000 copies printed and distributed to Tigard community members. So we're excited to release that again. Our Government Affairs and Public Policy meeting is coming up on February 18th. And then we have our webinar Wednesday, and the topic is going to be on managing up, and that is going to be on February 24th. We host AM Networking every Thursday at 7:45. This week we will be hosted by Left Mind Media, and then we also have a multi-chamber virtual networking coming up on February 17th. For the Tigard Farmers Market, we're still accepting vendors for the 2021 season. We've accepted about 20 different vendors so far, and we're expecting, our goal is to at least get to what we had last year, was about 50. We are fully planning on the market to look exactly the same as it did at the end of last season, in a sense of the COVID-19 safety guidelines, so spacing between vendors, limiting the number of people that can come into the market, and then also having those mask requirements. And then for downtown Tigard, we have the Ticket to Tigard program happening right now through March 17th. All you have to do is make a qualified purchase at one of the participating businesses, and you will get a ticket to Tigard that is good for a special offer at one of the other participating businesses. Any questions?
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
Appreciate the updates, and you've got a lot going on at the chamber.
Yes.
And really enjoyed speaking at Leadership Tigard this morning, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we'll move on to update from Police Chief McAlpine.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Kathy McAlpine, Police Chief. I have our January dashboard to present. However, we have a lot more other pressing things to talk about. So I just want to remind the listening audience that the January 2021 dashboard is available on our transparency page starting first thing in the morning. First things first, unfortunately, I do not have any updates on the officer-involved shooting. I am aware that the investigation is complete with the exception of getting results from the crime lab, such as the toxicology report. I believe transcriptions and the lead investigator's reports are what is ongoing. And just a reminder to our community, these are the same investigators that go out to homicides or serious assaults. And as you may be aware, on January 29th, we did have a homicide in Tigard at the Silver Creek's apartment where a 22-year-old male was stabbed and died at the hospital of his wounds. That's an active investigation with some leads that we're following up on. So again, these are the same handful of detectives that have to go out into the county to include our city to handle these serious investigations. What I have up here is, again, I know that people want to hear the update on our January 7th riot update. And I want to show you some of the pictures that our investigators are challenged with on trying to identify these individuals. Obviously, that is their full goal, is not to be identified, or as they use the term, unmasked. With that said, we have, again, some significant leads. We do have one arrest, one that's about to go to grand jury, and several others where we have significant leads on. So I just ask everybody's patience. We are still very much in the full throw of these investigations, but again, just want to share a little bit of some of the challenges we face in trying to identify the perpetrators of the January 7th riot. And then the other is obviously what we consider a direct action, as they call it, which is another form for a riot that was scheduled for February 6th. It was advertised as the 1 month anniversary of the officer-involved shooting and the death of Jacob McDuff. We've learned a lot in 30 days on just how we can handle it, the support that we get from our partner agencies, with a little bit of planning, some fencing to protect our infrastructure. I believe our communication strategies were greatly improved, and I'm happy to say, we don't shout it to the rooftops, but we had individuals that arrived in Tigard dressed as you basically saw in those photos. However, we greeted them in Tigard fashion, told them they could exercise their First Amendment rights, but had to be law-abiding. And then we escorted them safely around the area that they chose to walk around. And I'm pleased to say that we had no injuries, no criminal activity that we observed, and they were safely able to exercise their First Amendment rights. And I just can't thank our partner agencies enough for that. And the community and all of you in your patience as we learn how to handle these and best address them. So I do appreciate all the support on that. And last, I think the other thing, even though it will be considered a February and the February update, but again, it was a press release, was on February 4th at 7 p.m. at 15300 Southwest Sequoia Parkway. We did have a stranger on stranger attack. Female getting into her vehicle was attacked from behind by a 25-year-old male. And after some struggling, she was able to break free and run to flag down a motorist. We were able to set up containment, have K-9 and area officers, and we were able to arrest him with her cell phone in hand. So he went to jail for kidnap, robbery, and strangulation. And he does not have a fixed address in Tigard. And then the other thing I would like to share with you, because of last week's council, and I know that city manager talked briefly about our greater meeting we're going to have tomorrow, but just a report out, this is still, for lack of a better term, a pilot program of having our community service officer, Brandon Peterson, as our point of contact in contacting complaints on houseless individuals, connecting them with resources if they want to, Brandon was able to attend 3 meetings in January, the Built for Zero, the street outreach convening, and the point-in-time planning, and also assisting in the point-in-time actual inventory. We had one successful referral in January where an individual did go to Bybee Lakes Hope Center. And again, that's a relationship that Brandon was able to establish. He's in a long-term reentry, and at least 1 month later, he's still there. So I consider that a success. On the 13th, we did contact a female living in her car, asked a outreach worker to come and assist, and she declined services at this time. So, you know, we'll keep checking on her and seeing what we can do to get services. And then we had another area encampment and just educated them that there are some resources available. They declined at this moment, but again, that might change down the road. We did observe 2 abandoned camps, both one in Cook Park during that point in time count, and then a large Costco property that we had cleaned up 2 years ago, or 2018, a lot of debris there. So still a lot of work to be done, and we're just a small piece in this, but just wanted to share that with all of you. And last, I will close and just saying, so for January, our persons crime was down a little bit from this time last year. Property crime is a little bit up, but we believe that's because of most of the businesses downtown that reported their property being vandalized. So I think that those numbers cause that increase. And then calls for service, we're seeing an uptick at about 2.4% from last year. One of the good news is our priority response 1 and 2, as you all know, is part of our levy outcome. And for the first time in quite a while, we were under 6 minutes. Not much, 5.57, but nonetheless, want to call that. And I know that was a lot in a fast few minutes, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions from council? Councilor Newton.
I don't really have a question, Chief. I just want to express my appreciation to you and the folks on the police department and all of our teammates at the city for doing what you can to respond to the issues that you know, are coming before us. I know our houseless folks need help, and you're doing what you can to help them. And I appreciate the preparation that you and our partner agencies did in response to accommodating folks that wanted to, you know, come in and peacefully protest. I'm glad that went off without any incidents. And so I just really want to thank you for everything that you're doing to be proactive in addressing, you know, the issues that are, you know, facing our community. And I'm really glad that the priority 1 time is down below 6. That's great. Thank you.
We'll take the win where we can.
That made me smile too when I saw it.
Yeah, thank you. And then Councilor Newton, that reminds me, again, last night we had the Public Safety Advisory Board. And again, we continue to be impressed with this group of individuals. We had a plan. What we believed was to educate and let them know about the department, thinking that that was the best way for them to make recommendations. But because of the racial and social justice issues that are so prevalent on their minds and out that are still across our country, they really asked to really pause on that orientation and really get to the heart of the matter. And so while we don't know what that's going to look like, I believe that we're more than willing to accommodate them, start the dialogue, and then move forward on where that takes us. So we're on this journey together, but you know, I think again they're feeling comfortable on voicing what is important to them, what they think is important to our community, and we will go forth.
Thank you, Chief. All right, I'm going to move us on to the next item on the agenda, which is the consent agenda. Consent agenda is used for routine items, including council meeting minutes and approval of contracts or intergovernmental agreements. Information on each item is available on the city's website in the packet for the meeting. These items may be enacted in one motion without separate discussion. Council members may request that an item be removed for motion by motion for discussion and separate action. Tonight we are reviewing and possibly approving City Council meeting minutes from mini meetings. Local Contract Review Board is considering a contract award for the Aquifer Storage and Recovery Wells 2 and 3 refurbishment. And Local Contract Review Board considering approval of a contract amendment number 1 with DLR Group. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. City Recorder, roll call vote, please.
Mayor, can I ask a question? Point of order question first. Since
Councilor Shaw, absolutely.
there's minutes that I wasn't a party to, so I'm assuming I cannot approve those. So just curious how I would go ahead and vote.
So what I would say to that is, we had a counselor early on in my time as a city councilor who felt like that was a real issue for them. But by voting on this, you're acting and accepting that those are the minutes of the meeting. And I always felt like, and maybe the city attorney can comment if she feels differently, but I always kind of felt like that was unnecessary because there's all kinds of things you're acting on that you weren't at the prior meeting for beyond just minutes. But City Attorney Rahala, any other words of caution there, or am I off base?
No, Mr. Mayor, I agree. I have no concern with Councilor Shaw voting on those items.
Okay.
Great. Then I have no problem with that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. City Recorder, roll call vote, please.
Councilor Goodhouse.
Yes.
Councilor Newton.
Yes.
Council President Lube.
Yes.
Councilor Shaw.
Yes.
Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Okay. Consent agenda is adopted unanimously. We'll move on to item number 4, which is a public hearing. Consider adoption of the City Center Urban Renewal Plan Substantial Amendment. I will open the public hearing. Anyone that wants to testify will be allowed to do so by phone. We also had written testimony. Again, if you would like to testify by phone, you may call and get in the queue by calling 503-966-4101. Redevelopment Project Manager Fairley, staff report.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Tigard City Councilors. I'm Sean Farley, Redevelopment Project Manager. I'll be co-presenting this tonight with Elaine Howard, who is our Urban Renewal Advisor. And my slides are not advancing. Hey, Mike.
Shaw, would you like me to? There they go. Catching up. If you want me to present, just let me know.
I think I got it now. Thanks. So, as the mayor mentioned, we are having a public hearing for the City Center Urban Renewal Plan Substantial Amendment tonight. And there will be an ordinance, and staff will recommend approval of that ordinance. So just for people who might be watching at home, a brief recap of the City Center Urban Renewal Plan. It was approved by voters back in 2006. And in Tigard, voters have to approve urban renewal plans and substantial amendments. Not every city, we're one of a handful of cities that actually has voters approve these things. The existing maximum indebtedness is $22 million over 20 years. And maximum indebtedness is essentially the the budget for the projects that are in the plan. We did do a substantial amendment in 2017 that added acreage, but did not change the maximum indebtedness. And just a reminder that urban renewal is not a new tax. It's just reallocating existing tax revenue. And I'll turn it over to Elaine Howard briefly to talk about how urban renewal works.
Thanks, Sean. This is just a very simple graph chart that shows you when an urban renewal area is formed. There typically are depressed conditions or conditions that need to be improved. And when the urban renewal plan is adopted, the assessor establishes what's called a frozen base assessed value. That doesn't mean property taxes are frozen. It just means that the property tax assessed value at the time that the urban renewal area is established, the taxes off of that amount continue to go to all of the taxing jurisdictions like the city, the county, the school district. Once an area is formed, there is a thing called increment. Increment is the increase in assessed value in the urban renewal area from the time it's adopted. Increment happens by two different methods. One, just by that 3% increase that's allowed on all of our property tax bills annually, and then new construction or substantial rehabilitation. As that increment grows, the city then is able, through their urban renewal agency, or in your case, it's called Development Commission, to do projects and programs within an area. When an urban renewal area is completed, the growth in that tax assessed value is released to all of the taxing jurisdictions, and they then appreciate or gain off of that increased assessed value over time. So as Sean says, it doesn't mean an increase in your individual property taxes. It just means that instead of the overlapping taxing districts gaining from the increased assessed value in the area, the urban renewal agency gains those taxes. Next slide, please. So the current urban renewal plan has a provision in it called a duration. That duration means that no new bonds may be issued after 2026. That's the language in the plan. The proposed amendment adds 9 years to that duration provision, which means that after 2035, no new bonds may be placed. The area actually will continue taking that division of tax revenue until fiscal year end 2049. So the duration provision is just something that was in the plan. It's technical. It has to be amended. And so we need to use that same language. So we have two different timelines there. The one where the area will quit taking taxes, which is estimated at fiscal year end 2049, and the last year to issue debt, which is in 2035. The increased amount of money would be $20.8 million, so a total maximum indebtedness of $42.8 million. And that new money would provide funding to complete new urban renewal projects. And as Sean says in Tigard, this amendment may be approved tonight, but it also then will have to be referred to the voters to get their approval. And then back to Sean here, and I will stay on in case there are any technical questions as we move forward.
Thanks, Elaine. So just a brief overview of what the City Center Urban Renewal Plan has accomplished since 2006. There's been about $48 million in private investment that's happened during that time period. Looking at the assessed value in the district and the duration of the plan so far for 2006-2019, those values have gone up 64%, and that's compared to 56% increase citywide. So that means that the district is outperforming citywide property values, which is what we want to see. There's been 28 matching grants to building improvements to downtown businesses. This does not include the recent downtown recovery grants that were granted in the past couple of weeks. So these grants have leveraged about $2.60 in private investment for every $1 in public investment. And there's been 234 new units of multifamily housing constructed. So quickly go through some of the high-profile projects. Main Street, Green Street. really attracted a lot of new investment in the area that it's been done. And phase 2 is in the planning stages and will go to construction later this year. And also Burnham Street improvement took a really bad condition street with not even a full sidewalk network and made it a great walking street. There's been incentivization of mixed-use redevelopment. The Atwell Urban Renewal put some money into that and got a great project, commercial ground floor, a lot of new residents downtown. And anecdotally, we've heard that businesses have been attracted by those customers living downtown. On the public space at Tigard Heritage Trail, the part that's in the district, and it's called Rotary Plaza. It's a smaller public space that can hold smaller events. The Heritage Trail itself is a great facility that has art and cultural and historical installations all along the way. Also a public restroom, the first public restroom in downtown Tigard. The matching grant program that I mentioned before, here's just a couple of more recent examples. Can make a real difference in improving both the inside and outside of businesses and vacant properties. So some of our active projects, Main Street at Fano Creek Development, that recently closed. That developer will be hopefully coming to construction later this year. And that's a project that really only an urban renewal agency would take on. We purchased a property. We were aware that it was contaminated. We had a strategy to get $400,000 in grants from the EPA Brownfield program. And we got that money, cleaned up the property, and made it suitable for redevelopment. And that's what's going to be happening there soon. The Universal Plaza, we're currently designing that and engineering that, and that'll be going to construction in early 2022. It's going to be a signature public space for downtown. And right now there's some temporary activation events going on there. That shows a twinkle tree. Those are have left. There is a new temporary art piece that is being installed. It's partially installed now. So why do we need this amendment? Well, we need to fund some new urban renewal projects to really fulfill the vision. There's a downtown connectivity plan that calls for a lot of new connections. Those streets can often be expensive. It's going to break down the larger blocks and open more property for development and make it easier to walk around and get around by bike. There's a proposal to continue the Tigard Heritage Trail from Main to Hall. So continue that cultural installations and art pieces, and also bike and ped connection. Some Fano Creek Trail improvements. Phase 2 of Universal Plaza does. We are going to have to do this in 2 phases. So phase 2 would pay for a large shade structure and a community room, a parking facility that would be part of the city facility consolidation. This parking facility would be made available to downtown visitors and customers and other employees as well, and would be really key to have that in place, especially when Universal Plaza is hosting events. Affordable housing would be called out as a specific project for the first time. There would be assistance for that and for other mixed-use development. And then pedestrian safety and streetscape improvements similar to the Burnham and Main Street projects. So the public comment that we've gotten on the amendment, the Town Center Advisory Commission, which is the volunteer advisors to council and the board of the TCDA on urban renewal, heard about this a few times, and they voted in December to recommend approval of this amendment. It was reviewed by the Town Center Development Agency on December 15th. That was the official start of the public review timeline. All the taxing jurisdictions were notified by mail. We made presentations to the Tigard-Tualatin School District, Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue, Washington County, and the Tigard-Tualatin Aquatics District at their request. And then we had a planning commission hearing in early January, And the Planning Commission hearing is a requirement to adopt an urban renewal plan, and they did unanimously find that the proposed amendment was consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. So our recommendation is to approve the ordinance that would adopt the plan amendment, and would be to direct staff to prepare the ballot title for board action in 2 weeks for the May 2021 election. So that's the end of my presentation. So be time for questions and then for the public comment.
All right, so I want to make sure that we're limiting this to questions, not comments from the council, et cetera, since we're in the public hearing process. So any questions on the staff report? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking down, not looking at the raised hands. Council President Lube.
Actually, I think Councilor Newton had her hand raised first.
Councilor Newton.
Just a really quick question. Mr. Fairley, you may be covering this in the next agenda item, but what was the action on the agencies after the presentations? Is my first question. And when we come with the ballot to consider the ballot title, will we have a communication plan with that as well? Those are my two questions. Thanks.
Yeah, those are good questions. I was going to cover the board actions in the next item, but I can say that the Tigard-Walton School District did concur last night, and TVF&R board 2 weeks ago, and Washington County did concur 2 weeks ago. There was a slight issue with the resolution, so they're going to be redoing that on their consent agenda next week, but staff at Washington County feels that it will pass.
They seemed very supportive when we met with them.
And the
second question,
yes.
right, on the we will be
communications plan.
Oh, sorry. So to answer your second question, Councilor Newton, next week we will have a work session that'll enable council to wordsmith the ballot title, and then that formal action will be on the 23rd. We do have a public communications plan, and I will be able to share that with you at that time. We are planning a lot of outreach. We do have FAQ sheets, and we do, we sent out flyers on this public hearing to every registered voter in Tigard. In fact, that had some of that information in a nice graphic form. And we'll also be doing a couple of videos and, getting the word out. We will have a plan to share.
Thank you.
Council President Lube.
Thank you. So my question is, I know that we have right now a maximum indebtedness of 22 million. How much of that have we actually spent already?
I believe the current amount is 12 million.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or, questions? Limit it to questions, no comments yet. Any questions of staff about the staff report? Okay, we'll move to public testimony. We received 4 timely written testimonies and 1 that was received after the time frame, but I will allow it into the record anyway because we did receive it. So we received a lengthy description from Aaron August about the fact that they do not support the city center urban renewal area because they want us to make it cool, and they think I'm going to summarize and say they think old buildings are cool and that new ones shouldn't necessarily be built. We had another person Karen Kelsey write in asking about how this plan is affected by light rail. We had 2 letters of support, one from Karina Rendies and one from Ryan Ruggiero, both from either are currently on or in the past have been on the city center or the Town Center Advisory Commission, excuse me. And then we had the late communication, which included really suggestions that we spend, that we don't pass this and instead use the money that we would spend on urban renewal and spend it on other things, which I will just point out to the public is not legal and not allowed. So we appreciate that comment, but that's not how urban renewal works. And that is not allowed by Oregon law. So those are the written, that's the my summary of the written testimony. We'll move on to any callers. Mr. Nullup, do we have, I know we have the one caller. Do we have any more than one caller?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, at this time we have 3 callers in the queue.
Okay.
Pass the first one through.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Snyder and City Councilors. I'm Ryan Ruggiero, current chair of the Town Center Advisory Commission, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the Commission regarding the proposed substantial amendment. Downtown Tigard has seen a remarkable turnaround in the 15 years since the City Center Urban Renewal Plan was adopted in 2006. Streetscape improvements on Main and Burnham, over 24 matching grants awarded to downtown businesses for building improvements, 234 new multifamily housing units, and $48 million in private investment in our downtown. All of this would not have happened were it not for the city's commitment to urban renewal and uplift in the core of our city, and importantly, the support of Tigard voters. The benefits of these investments are readily apparent to anyone who spends any time downtown. A more vibrant, walkable downtown with new businesses, better streets and sidewalks, better stormwater treatment for Fano Creek, a vibrant farmers market, the Tigard Heritage Trail and Rotary Plaza, and this year's Christmas lights. And more on the way, Universal Plaza, a new civic service center, and improved regional trail conditions. More people, more life, more vibrancy, more energy. We are seeing the emergence of the downtown envisioned 15 years ago. It's a fun place to be now, but we're not done. And old and new can both be cool. The pandemic has proven challenging, but due to the pre-pandemic strength and resilience of our downtown businesses and the continued and ongoing support of the people of Tigard, downtown will weather the pandemic. Escalating construction costs, increased demand for public investment in affordable housing, downtown businesses and parks and trails in downtown compel us to adapt to this moment and infuse the downtown with a new commitment, a commitment of funding, more funding than was originally sought, to bring about a vision that hasn't yet been realized, but is within our reach. The City Center's Futures project shows us the way. Lessons have been learned. We're smarter, more nimble, and at least as ambitious as we were in 2006, if not more. Let's invest in our downtown. Let's invest more for a better downtown and a better Tigard. As you know, this is not a new tax in any shape or form. This substantial amendment would only reallocate existing tax revenue toward downtown. The Town Center Advisory Commission urges Council support for the substantial amendment for downtown Tigard. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan. Mr. Nullup, can you put the next caller through, please?
Good evening, Mayor Snyder and City Councilors. I'm Karina Rendies. Thank you for providing the opportunity to provide comment on the proposed substantial amendment to the City Center Urban Renewal Plan. As many of you already know, I did serve, and as the mayor mentioned, I did serve on the Public Advisory Commission for Tigard's Urban Renewal Districts for 6 years, 3 of those as the chair of the commission. I'm also a practicing land use planner for other local jurisdiction. Our volunteer commissioners and city staff have long recognized that the existing limits in the current city center urban renewal plan will need updating in order to meet the city's goals for this urban renewal district. Due to the Great Recession, district funding was slow to accumulate and projects were therefore limited in size and impact when the district first got started. In 2015, the City Center Advisory Commission submitted a report to the Tigard Development Agency and its board of directors recommending that the plan be amended to extend the life of the district and an assessment of the covered projects be conducted to ensure they meet current needs. Since then, the district has gained momentum through big roadway projects and the new Atwell on Main and the Tigard Heritage Trail. Today, Main Street has unique places to shop, such as the Jeffrey Allen Gallery and Curiosities, and to play, like Paddle Palace, Stumptown Escape, and Versus board games. We've also had a delicious revival of food and drink establishments, from the basics at Max and Bailey's to takeout from Deli Hut and Symposium to unique places like Senate Game Bar and the Tigard Tap House. Keeping this momentum going, though, especially in the time of this pandemic, requires both a commitment to continue this work beyond 2025, which is now less than 5 years away, and a consideration of projects not on our radar 5 years ago, much less 15 years ago when the plan was adopted. The current members of the Town Center Advisory Commission work closely with staff to identify crucial new projects that are needed in the district now. This includes a number of capital projects that have the potential to transform how the district functions, such as new streets, sidewalks, and trail improvements, as well as projects that will make the district welcoming to everyone, such as a modern parking facility, affordable housing, and our own downtown public plaza. If we want to continue to invest in a downtown that will serve the needs of our city and our residents, the time to act is now. I urge the council to adopt the proposed substantial amendment to continue our work building a downtown that is walkable and accessible, that provides places to work, play, and recreate, that welcomes everyone, regardless of age or ability, regardless of background, heritage, or income, a place everyone can call home. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Mr. Nolep, next caller in the queue, and are there any more, or is this the final caller we have?
At this time, Mr. Mayor, this is the final caller.
Okay.
Hello, am I up?
You are. This is Mayor Snyder and the City Council. Go ahead.
Hi, Mayor Snyder. Michael Antonelli, Tigard citizen. I don't have a prepared statement like the other two callers did, but I was a little bit concerned about this. And the reason I was concerned is because the city seems to really promote the urban renewal programs as will not increase taxes. But my question is, what happens when the city ends up short of revenue for other programs, essential programs, like the police department? What prevents the city from saying, well, we don't have enough taxes 2 years from now, and now we need to raise taxes? I've been watching these urban renewal districts, and I generally think they're a great idea, but to promote it as not increasing taxes, I think it's kind of a shell game. As I often hear it called, the taxes are being reallocated, and then I've seen it play out to where the city is short and they don't have enough tax revenue, so that they need to ask the taxpayers to approve other measures to increase taxes 2 years down the road. So is there anything that you guys can say about that?
Well, thank you for that comment, and I will actually, in the interest of trying to help get an answer for you, I will ask staff to prepare in the staff response to testimony, if they can be prepared to explain how much tax revenue would be in the future during this time would be redirected from the city of Tigard, potential revenue collection that would go, instead of going into the city, go into the urban renewal area for a period of time, or urban renewal fund. So essentially the size of the increment that would have gone to the city of Tigard, that hopefully can best answer that question. I think that's the piece of information that could best answer it. I think the other thing that to just be aware of is that at the end of the urban renewal district, if you've done a good job, which I think we've actually done a pretty good job of managing, when you come out of the urban renewal program, you have far more built and much more tax revenue than you would have had if you didn't do all these projects. So it's sort of, generally speaking, a temporary, short, it's a long-term investment, I guess I would say. So, Mr. Farley, can you be prepared when we move to staff response to answer that question, either you or Elaine for the caller?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Mr. Nolop, one last.
The only reason I bring it up is.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say the only reason I bring it up is because I seem to remember a lot of similar arguments being made when the original urban renewal for both downtown and Tiger Triangle were made. And then a few years after that, there was a big push, a couple of pushes to increase tax revenue, originally through a generic bond that did not pass, and then later it was kind of narrowed down to a police levy, which did pass. So I'm just hoping that, if you guys are going to sell this urban renewal as will not increase taxes, I'd like to hear some kind of a commitment that we're not going to come back 2 years later and say we need more taxes for some specific purpose. And that's all I have to say. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Nolop, are there any other callers in the queue?
Mr. Mayor, there are no other callers in the queue.
Okay. Mr. Farley, staff response to testimony.
Yeah, so I was going to cover this on the next agenda item, but the amount that the city would forego because of the amendment is 6.4 million, I believe. Between 2036.
What period of time?
Right, between 2036 and 2049. And what has already been approved, with the current plan, the city's foregoing 4.6 million. So we can also have the finance director, probably not now, but just run, what that is as a percentage of our total, income. Important thing to remember is, there are other taxing jurisdictions that are that would have gone to them that is being allocated to this district for a period of time to do defined projects that, as the mayor has mentioned, will result in a higher value at the end of the district and more property taxes, value going to those jurisdictions, including the city. And really, when we say it doesn't raise taxes, the fact is that right now, if your property tax, if there was no urban renewal, your property taxes would be the same level. If urban renewal, ceased to exist tomorrow, there would be no increase or decrease in your current property tax rate, your bill.
Yeah, to the caller's point, though, and I think maybe Mr. LaFrance can comment on this. I think the question on the table is, what is the impact of the general fund? And perhaps that can be quantified out of that 4.6 and then 6.4 million. And frankly, those sound like large numbers, but knowing what they are on an annual basis is probably what matters more. and from that, how much of it is general fund. So, Mr. LaFrance, are you prepared to comment on this?
Hello, Mayor and Council. Toby LaFrance, Finance and Information Services Director, and sorry, I just rejoined after doing a little bit of work on behalf of a later council item. And so, if I remember correctly, Mr. Farrelly, did we attach to this agenda item? There was a analysis that was performed by our consultants that brought us to those total numbers, and I believe that analysis lays out on a year-by-year basis the amount of general fund that we would be losing over time, each year over time. So I do remember that report. I just don't know if that's been attached to a council item at this point in time.
We actually have the table in our next PowerPoint. I could probably bring it up if that would be helpful. Or Elaine,
you know what, Mr. Farrelly, in the interest of time, if we're going to cover it, I'm going to trust that I think the caller who was making that comment regularly watches our entire council meetings, and so I don't know that it's critical to get it in this public hearing unless it's important to the rest of the council. So I will just ask, is there a member of council who absolutely must have that now, or can we move on this item and then get that in the next? Okay, so I am going to close the public hearing. We're going to move on to council consideration of ordinance number 21-04. And I'm going to go around to everyone. Youth Councilor Calderon, let's start with you.
I'm so sorry. You just cut out for me. Could you repeat what you said before you called on me?
I'm sorry. I was just going to go around to every councilor. So do you have any questions or comments on this item or a recommendation to the rest of the council, since you don't technically get to vote?
I would say the staff recommendation is what I agree with, and the presentation was great, and I like the graph. I forgot how urban renewal works, but then with the graph, it reminded me, and that was just perfect. Thank you.
You might possibly be the only high school student in Oregon who understands how urban renewal works, because most adults don't either. Okay, Councilor Shaw.
No questions, Mayor.
Okay. Councilor Goodhouse.
No questions. I was just going to make a comment for those viewing or questions. One thing about urban renewal is it was mentioned, is usually in a blighted area or area that won't grow without it. So usually, even though you might be foregoing tax, the one thing is you're taking area and you're stimulating growth or building in an area that wouldn't do it otherwise. So it's kind of the chicken or the egg, where yeah, you might be foregoing it, but if you never did the urban renewal area, then that wouldn't happen, that growth wouldn't happen, and that new construction wouldn't happen. So you might be going without it, but also it's promoting all that. But I'm in favor of going forward.
Council President Lube.
You know, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I'm still fairly new to Tigard in comparison to a lot of our other residents. But one of the things, my husband and I did is drive around, and we looked at, downtown, and we sort of, even in the short period, it has made such a difference in making, our Main Street area somewhere that we want to be, and we actually frequent more because of a lot of these updates and changes. And I certainly don't think I'm alone in that. And with everything considered, and it taking a while to get jump started, I think it's just in our best interest and in the city's best interest for us to continue to invest in this area and continue to make it a place that people want to be and really make it a center of our community. So I think it's important for us to continue to move forward and support this.
Councilor Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I'm going to be dating myself. I started with the city in 1980, and I will tell you that downtown has come a long way since then. I think the changes that we made in 2005 really, we'd had some false starts in the 90s, but really jump-started this. And as I was listening to the presentation and saw the information about the increase in property taxes downtown, 64% versus 56%, I was also struck with just the synergy that we have, finally getting older established businesses to take advantage of our facade and grant programs. You know, they're longtime businesses, they're in their buildings, they've just improved the facades, and then new investment in the downtown, just people coming in and thinking our downtown is worth investing in. And then that synergy for all the activities now, the events and the success of the downtown business association. So I support it. I think without it, we wouldn't have the downtown that we have. And again, we've got a mix of old, new, and just the energy that's down there now. So I support moving forward with it. Thanks.
Would someone make a motion?
I gotta find it. I move to approve ordinance 21-4.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded twice. City Recorder, please read the number and title of the ordinance.
Ordinance number 21-04, an ordinance making certain determinations and findings related to and approving the Tigard City Center Urban Renewal Plan Amendment and directing that notice of approval be published.
And City Recorder, a roll call vote.
Councilor Goodhouse.
Yes.
Councilor Newton.
Yes.
Council President Lube.
Yes.
Councilor Shaw.
Yes.
Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Okay, ordinance number 20-04 is adopted unanimously. Thank you. And Mr. Fairley, we'll move on to item number 5, concurrence with maximum indebtedness increase for the Tigard City Center Urban Renewal Plan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sean Farrelly again. And after that action, this is a little bit of an anticlimax, but it is a necessary step. Tonight, we're asking Council to concur with the increase in maximum indebtedness of $20.8 million. And this is a step that's required by Oregon statute. For this level of maximum indebtedness, basically anything above increasing the original maximum indebtedness by 25%, you have to get that concurrence from the other taxing districts that levy 75% of the permanent rate taxes in the URA. So in this case, the top 4 are TVFNR, TTSD, Washington County, and the city. And as I mentioned before, the TVFNR board passed a resolution of concurrence on January 26th. School district board approved it last night. Washington County originally approved it 2 weeks ago and needs to do a revised resolution. We anticipate that next week. So the recommendation will be to approve the resolution. And here is that table that I promised earlier. So the first column is what is already approved by our current plan. And as you can see, you know, it's running at about 120,000, you know, foregone revenue to the city's general fund. And, you know, that it's growing every year because of the, you know, the 3% increase in property taxes and then the new development that's happened. So by the end of 2036, which would be the current plan's expiration, or the current plans would stop 4.6 million. The amendment would extend that TIF collection till 2049. As you can see, it's, you know, substantially more because property taxes have grown since the district was first formed. So it's, it gets to be, an average of $500,000 a year impact to the general fund for a total of six point, I can't see that last number, $6.2 million.
And that's all to the general fund, Sean?
That's right.
Okay, I just want to make sure for the caller earlier that this is the answer to your question.
And my slide is not advancing for some reason. Hey, Mike, can you advance the slide? Oh, there it is. So yeah, the full impact, this is just putting those two charts together, the full impact of the current plan and the amendment, just shy under $11 million. So the impact to the city of Tigard to the proposed maximum indebtedness increase is 6.2 million. And that reflects the fact that now there's revenue sharing. The Oregon Urban Renewal Law requires that now. So all the taxing jurisdictions do get revenue sharing. So, the impact would have been greater without that. So there's about 4.2 million in revenue sharing happening from 2036 to 2049. But as has been mentioned before, the impact really has to be balanced against the future incremental tax. When the district is closed down, these investments will have resulted in a lot more private investment and more increase in property values, and that means that there would be more revenue flowing back to the taxing jurisdictions who are foregoing some of their funding for a defined period of time for a defined series of projects. Any questions?
I will make one comment since I think this is not a public hearing now, so this is discussion and questions. I want to make sure that the city attorney, when the city attorney and staff are working on preparing the ballot language, that they model this off of what the council worked through, at least as a starting point for the Tigard Triangle urban renewal area. So I know Councilor Goodhouse and I both had a pretty significant impact on that language, and I think we felt like it made had a significant impact on the success of that passing. So I would direct staff to start there on that. That's my one comment. And Councilor Newton.
There we go. Sorry. This may be down in the weeds, but Mr. Farrelly, to Mr. Antonelli's point, I think it's important that people recognize, if we didn't have the urban renewal in place and we didn't have the increased value that we do with the investments, this impact on the general fund is somewhat related to the fact that property values increase because of the investment in the urban renewal. So it's a little bit confusing, and I don't know, not for tonight, but as we're going forward and maybe putting something on the website, maybe Ms. Howard and Mr. LaFrance could take a run at trying to make sure that people understand that those two are connected. And I don't need an answer tonight. I just thought maybe that would be helpful.
Okay. Other comments or questions? Councilor Goodhouse.
If there isn't any other ones, I'll just, I move to approve resolution number 21-04.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Please read the number and title of the resolution.
Resolution number 21-04. A resolution concurring with the maximum indebtedness increase for the Tigard City Center Urban Renewal Plan.
And a roll call vote.
Councilor Goodhouse.
Yes.
Councilor Newton.
Yes.
Council President Lube.
Yes.
Councilor Shaw.
Yes.
Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Okay, resolution 21-04 is adopted unanimously. Let's move on to a public hearing on local contract review board. Consider revisions to the city's public contracting rules. I'll open the public hearing. Anyone that wishes to testify will be allowed to do so, and you may get in the queue for testifying by calling the following number, 503-966-4101. Contracts and Purchasing Manager Moody, staff report, please.
Good evening, Mayor Snyder and councilors. I'm Christine Moody, Purchasing Manager. I am here tonight asking City Council as the local contract review board to consider revisions to the city's public contracting rules and approve 6 new class special procurement exemptions. The state of Oregon has 3 main statutes that deal with public contracting, and within ORS 279B, there is allowance for local agencies through their LCRB to classify certain types of procurements as a class special procurement, exempting it from competition. In order to do this, the city is required to produce findings justifying the special procurement circumstances that are unlikely to encourage favoritism and is reasonably expected to result in cost savings or otherwise promotes public interest. On January 25th, the city posted a public notice in the Daily Journal of Commerce of the proposed exemptions and findings, with the public hearing being held at tonight's City Council meeting. Public Contracting Rule 1022 would allow for the direct purchase of permits, postage meters, pre-stamped postcards, postage accounts, and other supplies and services from the U.S. Postal Service. With the owner of the products and materials being a branch of the U.S. government, there is no true competition, and the competitive bidding process will not lower the price of the products and materials, as production and distribution of these materials is controlled by the U.S. Postal Service and may only be used through that source. Public Contracting Rule 1062 allows for direct contracts for legal advice and other types of legal services. Legal services are determined largely based on qualifications of a particular firm or attorney for that matter at issue, often with an urgent need that does not allow for a lengthy solicitation process. Due to rules limiting a firm's ability to represent a potential client that could be adverse to another client, the number of firms that represent local governments are sometimes limited. This means that for some specialty practices, there may be only a few attorneys in the state with the expertise in the subject and interest in representing the city. This exemption also allows for other services such as court reporter or copy service that are selected by another person. For example, in order to receive the benefit of the contractor's work, such as a deposition transcripts or photocopies, the city has no choice but to purchase from that same vendor. A similar situation arises when a mediator, referee, or court-appointed individual is selected either by a court or joint agreement between the city and another party in effort to resolve a claim or dispute asserted by the city. In this situation, the city has no choice in the selection of the person when it is mandated by the court, an arbiter, or other person with similar authority. There also may be situations where the city and another party must mutually agree to hire a specific individual, such as a mediator, in order to resolve an ongoing legal issue. This exemption will not diminish competition, as the selection of a person by the court or person with similar authority means that the city has no say in the selection process. The selection of a person by mutual agreement also means the city does not have unfettered control of the selection process. The city may see substantial savings by proceeding in the fashion because it permits the city to resolve disputes formally without resort to a more expensive and formal legal process. Oh, so my slides are not advancing. So
they are not. I didn't know you had slides, or I would have commented on that. Sorry.
No, my slides are not advancing. I'm on 3, Mike.
Okay. Okay, let me share my screen here and pull it up for you.
I just went through the legal services. There you go. I'm on that one. Thank you. Public Contracting Rule 1064 allows the city to directly contract for performance art or artwork, such as painting, sculpture, mixed media artwork, vocal performance, instrumental performance, or dance performance. The city requires specific types of artwork for its parks and public buildings and identify with the surrounding community and the library. Parks and community service programs require performance art as part of the program curriculums. By their nature, artists and performers are of a creative nature and have a unique style that fit within a specific category and are offered from a sole provider. Oftentimes, for new artwork, the city will choose to engage in an art competition, but when supplementing artwork into a location, conformance with existing aesthetics is desired. For instance, the city is currently needing some artwork to attach to a new boardwalk in Dirksen Nature Park. We have existing animal figurines in the park and want the new artwork to be similar, therefore hire the same artist. Similarly, the library may want a specific cultural dance performance catering to a specific audience that doesn't lend itself to a competitive process because it is so unique. Next slide, please. City employees attend various types of training, oftentimes for professional development, with these trainings being unique in their content and proprietary. They are typically organized, produced, and controlled by a sole entity. Competition is limited or non-existent for seminar, training registrations, and conference fees, and Public Contracting Rule 1066 allows for the direct purchase rather than incurring the costs of advertising or bids or proposals. Next slide, please. The city frequently enters into grant agreements, which the other party provides the city with financial and other assistance. As a condition of receiving the grant, the city may be contractually bound to purchase specific goods and services. Sometimes a specific brand of equipment is identified and even a contractor or consultant. If the city does not comply with grant terms and conditions, we may lose the funding or assistance provided by the grant. With most federal grants, this is no longer the case after the feds updated their procurement guidance in 2014, but this sometimes can still occur with local grants or matching requirements. Next slide, please. Public Contracting Rule 7012 allows the city to procure professional services through direct negotiation when an ongoing long-term relationship of knowledge and trust is needed. This exemption will not substantially diminish competition in the awarding of city contracts because from time to time, the city will issue a formal solicitation based upon a particular industry best practice, but does allow flexibility of the timing of the solicitation. We currently have 2 real examples that will intersect with the implementation of the Tyler Munis financial system. The city currently uses the Bank of America procurement card program and works online banking reconciliation and approval software. Tigard is part of a consortium of local agencies that utilize the City of Portland's contract for these services. Portland has a new contract and will be switching to U.S. Bank for procurement card program in December of 2021. For us, this will cause a real hardship, not only in resource constraints in the finance department, but we will be in the middle of implementation. The city currently has 150 cardholders, and we would need not to switch the cards, but train on a new online reconciliation and approval system in the midst of also training on our new financial system. In addition, the city's audit services contract is due for RFP in 2021. As I just stated with the procurement card banking services, there's a similar concern with the switch of audit providers. The first year of audit services with a new contractor takes a greater amount of work as the audit firm learns the city systems and processes. Additional staff time is needed for education of policies and internal controls, with considerable time spent on background and orientation, documentation, and reporting requirements. With resources being focused on the Tyler Munis financial system, there would not be adequate time to get a new auditor up to speed. Financial operations needs the consistency of a firm that knows what we do and how we do it in the current Springbrook system to help compare and ensure that our controls are at least as good, if not better, in our new system. For attorney services, oftentimes we are looking for legal advice from someone who is an expert in a specific field. This person is either recognized by their peers as someone who has specific knowledge about a subject, or may have pre-existing knowledge of the city situation in which we need to have them weigh in. Matters involving litigation may last for several years, which may not have been anticipated when the attorney was first selected. It is not practical to change attorneys partway through a litigation case, so the ongoing relationship would be essential to the continuity of the case. Case in point are the current contracted labor and employment law attorneys. Because of their extensive experience with Tigard's contracts and relationship in particular with our police department, they are able to assist human resources quickly as issues come up. There are substantial cost savings in the fact that there is no time spent giving background or bringing someone up to speed when time is of the essence and the HR director is needing legal advice. This exemption 7012 does not mean that the city will never seek out competition by issuing an RFP, but rather gives us flexibility in timing and allows the organization to dictate the most appropriate time for a significant change. This also does not take away City Council or LCRB contract approval authority. Any contract over $250,000 that cites any of these exemptions will still go before this body for authorization. Now I'll turn this back over to City Council if there are any questions.
All right, any questions on the staff report? Seemed very thorough to me, and I get it, but who if anyone has questions? All right, I don't believe, Councillor Lube.
Yeah, I don't have a question so much as a statement. I think a lot of these, make a lot of sense, and I certainly understand the reasoning behind including financial auditors. I just have a very serious concern over the potential, just because of the nature of the auditing, what the employees are doing, that the employees that the city would be able to dictate whether or not we would go out and get a new auditor. And I think it's important to know that, yes, continuity is good, but also having a new auditor every now and then, a fresh set of eyes, having to re-explain things is really important. And I think as sort of a tax-paying citizen, I want that independence between the city and the auditors. So I really struggle being able to include auditors in this scenario.
So I want to just make sure that because we're in the middle of a public hearing that we're focused on questions, and that's okay. I don't, unless I'm not understanding, I'm thinking that's more of a comment and a discussion item. Council President Lube, is that okay? Okay.
Yep.
Other question. That's okay. Other questions? on the staff report? Okay. Let's move to public testimony. And Mr. Nolup, did we end up with any callers in the queue?
No callers, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I will just give you a heads up, Mr. Nolup. Please keep the queue open. I had someone send me a message indicating their frustration with trying to testify at the prior public hearing, and I've responded and indicated that if they want to call in, that I would discuss what procedure we needed to do to reopen that public hearing so they could testify. So please keep that open, and if they do come back, please notify me. And it's a resident named Cleon Cox.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Okay, so no callers in the queue on this public hearing. No response to testimony by staff. I will close the public hearing. Council consideration of resolution 21-05. Council President Lube, your comment. Let's start with that. I guess you made it. Do you want to make it again? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would just say the same thing of that I struggle with the independence in this particular scenario because it's such an important role to have independent and not have the city be able to dictate something like this. And I really feel strongly, especially considering we have an audit committee who could potentially advise and make decisions or recommendations based on this. So the rest of them, I totally understand. It's this particular piece that I don't agree with.
So Councilor Lube, we did get your question beforehand, and Assistant Director, Finance Director Jared Isaacson is here also, but the idea here isn't to not do an RFP, it's just to delay it because of the timing. And I understand that he is also needs to pass this through the audit committee and get their approval before that action can actually be taken. And I see that Jared's here too.
Yeah, I would love to hear from Jared because, and I totally understand, we're thinking in this scenario, but I think it's also our responsibility to think worst case scenario. And if something maybe fishy is going on or something like that, do we have the controls in place to be able to manage that situation? And so that's sort of my question.
Thank you, Councilor Lube. I do appreciate, President Council Lube, I do appreciate your concern. Having an independent audit firm is definitely of high importance. One of the things that I feel is still important is that even if council approves this resolution with the audit piece in there, I feel it is still important to take it to the audit committee and have the audit committee agree to continue to contract with our current auditors, because the audit committee is in charge of ultimately choosing an audit firm. And this would provide that authority to the audit committee to make that choice. And yeah, I think.
So Jared, is that written into the? Yes. Is that written into this process as you're describing it, or should it be?
If it's not written into the process, and that would be an answer Christine Moody would have to provide, then I believe it should be.
Okay.
So I think if that is, I see our director raised his hand to comment.
Hello, Mayor and Council. Toby LaFrance, Finance and Information Services Director. And this is where we kind of have two separate processes and two separate documents. The resolution that established the audit committee does give the audit committee, they are a key participant in the selection and hiring of our independent auditors. As your finance director, I don't want to be the person that is hiring my auditors. It's a bit of a situation of the fox in the hen house. Don't want the appearance of that. And so we have a separate resolution that already is giving that authority to our audit committee. And then this would be in our purchasing and contracting rules, which would allow for flexibility. So what we'd have to do is we'd have to combine these two, the purchasing and contracting rules that are before you this evening with the resolution that already exists in order to have a delay in hiring auditors. So in a way, this is a double check on the process. Hopefully
Mr.
that helps answer the
yeah, would
question.
you object to having this clarified in the purchasing area so that, I mean, it's one thing to have it set with all of us having a common understanding and we were all at this meeting. It's a whole nother thing when all of our children are running the city and they look at one thing and be like, oh, well, that, you know, this says right here that this can happen. So I'd rather have it overly clear than, you know, separated and maybe subject to some sort of interpretation.
I'm sure that there's a way we could add it in to sort of take the belts and suspenders approach and make that happen.
Okay. So Councillor Lube, would that meet your needs then? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Other councillors that have comments or questions? Nobody? Okay. Is there a motion?
I move to approve resolution number 21-05.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. City Recorder, read the number and title of the resolution.
I couldn't hear who seconded the motion.
Councilor Shaw, Carol.
All right, thank you. All right, Councilor Goodhouse.
Yes.
Councilor Newton. Councilor Newton. Yes. All right. Council President Lube.
Yes.
Councilor Shaw.
Yes.
And Mayor Snyder.
Yes.
Yes, Carol. Sorry.
I need to read the resolution as well. I neglected to do that. It's resolution 21-05, a resolution amending the City of Tigard public contracting rules. Do we need to say as amended or?
I'll ask the city attorney, and I think our intent is pretty clear, but city attorney, how do you want this specifically moved, or do you want us to approve them and then have this get amended afterward? Like, do you want to bring it back, or do you, I guess I don't know if the staff is ready to work it now, or what needs to happen?
Yeah, so Council, I'll defer to Contracts Manager Moody if she's ready to work it now. My preference would be to delegate to staff to prepare the language and adopt it, unless Council would like to see it again, in which case we can bring it back.
I think our intent is clear. So does the motion need to be changed, and do we need to revote because we didn't technically describe that amended portion?
Yes, please.
All right, is there a motion? This would be a motion to approve resolution 21-05 as amended by Councillor Lube.
So I move to approve resolution number 21-05 as amended.
And I'll second the motion.
Okay, let's go. Carol, you want to read it? Read the title again?
Yes, resolution number 21-05, a resolution amending the City of Tigard public contracting rules as amended.
Roll call vote.
Councilor Goodhouse.
Yes.
Councilor Newton.
Yes.
Council President Lube.
Yes.
Counselor Shaw,
Yes.
Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Okay, resolution number 21-05 as amended is approved unanimously. We will move on to item, actually, let me check. Mr. Nolip, has the caller called in?
No, Mr. Mayor, we have no callers.
Okay. Move on to item number 7, consideration of resolution waiving business license late fees. Mr. LaFrance.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is Toby LaFrance, Finance and Information Services Director. With me this evening is Liz Lutz. And before you this evening is a resolution we are recommending that Council approve to waive late fees on business license renewals. So for those of you who don't know, Ms. Liz Lutz administers the business license program for the city of Tigard, and about 2 weeks ago mentioned that it was time to issue late notices and the fees associated with those for business licenses. She thought that it would be consistent with past council practice over the last year during COVID to waive these late fees, and so we started down the process to create the resolution that's before you this evening. We looked into the impact to the program and revenue. Again, a little bit of background. Any business that's doing commerce within a city is required to get a business license under the city's Tigard Municipal Code 5.04. Most of the revenue from the business licenses support the commercial crimes unit within our police department. And we have about 3,000 licensed businesses doing business within the city of Tigard. License renewals are done annually, and they're due by the end of the calendar year, so December 31st. And for those who don't pay their fee on their business license on time, there's a 10% late fee that's assessed if it's not paid. In a normal year, we typically send out about 500 late fees or late notices. This year, if we were to send these out, it'd be closer to 900. And of those 900, most are smaller businesses of 1 to 5 employees. So a waiver of the late fee, since most of these are the smaller businesses that pay a smaller business license in the first place, and we're talking about 10% of a relatively small fee, the waiver of the late fee would result in a loss of approximately $16,000 to our general fund, which is about 2% of the budgeted $744,000 in business license revenue that we have for fiscal year 21. And should council approve the resolution, instead of sending out the late fee notices, what we would be doing instead is we would still send out mailings reminding our businesses of their obligation to pay for their business license in this year. However, that reminder would not include a late fee assessment, and we plan to include an insert explaining the action of council to waive the fees due to COVID. So with that, that concludes the staff presentation. Approval of the resolution is recommended, and both Liz Lutz and I are available to answer any questions you may have.
Well, I really appreciate staff bringing this forward and recognizing our intent, and clearly recognizing that as this was coming up in the normal cycle of business, that we didn't send these out and then get complaints and then act on it later, but rather being proactive. So I want to recognize that and thank staff for that. Are there any questions or a motion? Councillor Shaw.
Yeah, just one clarifying question. Toby and I had emailed earlier, but then the 5th whereas, it just talks about waiving late fees accruing on or January 1. I just wasn't sure it was on or after, or on, just if there was a little bit of clarity there.
Thank you. Yes. With that, and so we saw that, I double checked with our city attorney. And so council, you have two options. Since what it's supposed to say is on or after January 1. And so, however, since it's in the whereas portion, which isn't the legally binding part, it's the now therefore, you could pass the resolution as presented. If you want us to tidy that up, by all means, we can. And if you want to pass resolution with that as amended with that change, we can do that as well. And then the official record will have a clean and corrected resolution. So completely up to council's discretion.
Okay, seems like makes sense to clean it up and pass it as it should have been written. At least that's my preference, but we'll see what kind of motion we get.
So I'd like to move to approve resolution number 2106, including the word after within the fifth whereas.
I'll second that motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, City Recorder, please read the number and title of the resolution.
Resolution number 21-06, a resolution waiving late fees for City of Tigard business licenses through December 31st, 2021, as amended to include the word after before the date of January 1, 2021.
And a roll call vote.
Councilor Goodhouse.
Yes.
Councilor Newsom.
Yes.
Council President Lube.
Yes.
Councilor Shaw.
Yes.
Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Okay, resolution number 21-06 is adopted unanimously.
Thank you.
Let's move on to item number 8. Consider purchase of property at 8686 Southwest Oak Street and authorize the city manager and city attorney to complete the transaction. Principal Engineer Newberry, staff report, please.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Andy Newberry, Principal Engineer in the Public Works Department, and I'm here tonight to ask Council to authorize our city manager and city attorney to take the next necessary steps to purchase the property at 8686 Southwest Oak Street. Now, the purchase of this property has been identified as a high priority in our stormwater master plan. So currently, a residential home sits at this property and is right next to Ash Creek. The home was built in the mid-1970s, which was before there were any setback requirements needed from streams. So nowadays, that home could never be built that close to this creek. So with that home being so close to Ash Creek, there's been problems over the years and continues to be problems. This area floods, and there's been a lot of stream erosion in the area, resulting in the portion of the yard, fence, and porch at this property being lost or damaged. The stream erosion has also come dangerously close to the home's foundation. So late last summer, the property owner reached out to the city stating that she wants to sell the property. She's an elderly woman that doesn't live there anymore, and she's looking to sell. So with this opportunity, we hired a licensed real estate agent or a real estate appraiser to complete an appraisal of the property. The appraisal of the property came in at $280,000, and the owner is willing to sell for that amount. We also completed a phase 1 environmental assessment of the site, and no known contaminants or other items of concern came up during that assessment. If we do receive authorization to purchase the property, we will ultimately demolish the home and complete some floodplain restoration. This restoration will also include enlarging the floodplain in the area, which will add more flood storage or stormwater storage during storm events. So the benefits of completing this work will result in less flooding and stream erosion in the area. Obviously, there will be no more danger in this home having structural failure because the home is going to be removed. And this will also help reduce erosion downstream, protecting private property. And again, the purchase of this property, along with removing the home and completing some floodplain restoration and enlargement, is a high priority in our stormwater master plan. So at this point, I'll take any questions that you may have and just say thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions or a motion?
I move to approve the purchase of property at 8686 Southwest Oak Street and to authorize the city manager and city attorney to complete the transaction.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. City Recorder, roll call vote.
Councilor Goodhouse.
Yes.
Councilor Newton.
Yes.
Council President Lube.
Yes.
Councilor Shaw.
Yes.
Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Okay, motion passes unanimously. Item number 9, we have no non-agenda items. City Manager Reimer, administrative report.
Absolutely. Well, good evening again, Mayor, members of the council, as well as my teammates and community members that may be listening in. We just have a few updates, and I want to start by a thanks. And in this case, it's been an extremely busy month, as all of you know. And I want to start by first thanking our police chief for her leadership this past month. She's done an outstanding job. I think many of you, or all of you, and many others in our community also believe that. And I just want to say thank you publicly to the chief. As importantly, I want to say thanks to both of our commanders. Both of them have been providing the leadership and the support to our chief, and the activities of Saturday night really proved the value of them to our community and to our team. And just thanks again to both of them, as well as our many regional partners. In fact, we had 11 regional partners working with us on Saturday evening, and members of other parts of our team. So thank you to everyone, chief and our commanders, as well as our community partners. Just a few updates. You may have heard by now from a COVID standpoint, we will be moving from extreme to a high risk. So the meter is moving in the right direction, though slowly. And so this means that there will be additional access to restaurants and fitness clubs and other places. But at the same time, we are just encouraging our community and our region to continue to be diligent, wearing masks, social distancing, do everything that we've been doing for many, many months, and continuing that as we continue to work through COVID. So we are heading in the right direction, but we need to continue what we're doing. Last week, we talked about the Resident Aid Fund of Tigard, and that we had, I believe, 11 or 12 applications, and that the committee was going to come together and make some of the allocations. And it sounds like, from what I'm learning, we had some very compelling cases, and our plan was to award 4 $25,000 grants. And instead, we are going to do 5 $20,000 grants. And the recipients are the Family Promise Tualatin Valley, the Immigrant and Refugee Community Organization, Just Compassion, Meals on Wheels, and the Muslim Education Trust. So congratulations to all of them, and thanks to the other community organizations who put the time and effort into applying for those funds as well. Quick congratulations to one of our newer officers, Officer Michael Schumacher, who just graduated February 4th from our Basic Law Enforcement Academy, and he's going to start his field training program, which lasts for 20 weeks. And Officer Schumacher was our first levy position hire in September of 2020. So welcome aboard again, Officer Schumacher, and thanks to the community for your support and allowing us to move forward with hires with our levy-funded positions. Just 2 more things. One is on the similar note to what we've been talking about this evening, as well as other weeks, and we are actively promoting Code Red. There'll be different materials supplied to the community to get people to sign up. I just signed up today to make it very easy to see how it is. One way, and it's not great during a video session like this, but you can go to our website under our emergency management. You can get a link there. And like I said, we will have other promotional materials that will be coming out where our community can sign up. And we really encourage many, many people to do that. It's growing. I understand that 646 people have already clicked on the link that we just sent out on Monday, but we need more than that. And so we just encourage the community to continue to sign up for Code Red, and we will continue to use that as necessary to inform our community as appropriate. And then the last is we are kicking off our website redesign. And so that'll be about a 9 to 12 month process. I just wanted to bring that to the council's attention, and we'll kick that off with engaging with our community to really understand what their needs are and wants are for our next website. And then we'll try to build around that. And so more information to come with that. And that concludes my report tonight. And thank you very much.
Thank you, City Manager Reimer. Tigard City Council will now go into executive session to discuss real property negotiations under ORS 192.660 subsection 2E. All discussions are confidential and those present may disclose nothing from the session. Representatives of the news media are allowed to attend executive sessions as provided by ORS 192.660 subsection 4, but must not disclose any information discussed. No executive session may be held for the purpose of taking any final action or making any final decision. Executive sessions are closed to the public. The City Council will adjourn directly and immediately after the executive session. Good night, Tigard.
Good night.